Okay. Well, so trig number 6. Are you ready for trig 6? And so there's 6 trig lessons, right? And then there's going to be 2 more on top of that, which are trig but not technically trig. And they're going to be the law of sines and the law of cosines. We'll do also. I'll give you a preview for it. So today's trig number 6 is kind of a summary of everything you've learned so far. So run through the whole drill with me, and this won't take too long at all. We'll go through this pretty quickly. What does trig stand for?
Trigonometry.
Okay, thank you, thank you. And basically speaking, the study of angles, loosely in there, we're looking at the measurement of angles. Now, what type of shape are we dealing with so far in trig?
Right triangle.
And so if there's 3 angles in a right triangle and one is 90, there's only 2 others that we're interested in. That's it. So there's only 2 angles, and that's what we call the reference angle. So if we drop the reference angle here, we're interested in this one. If we drop the reference angle here, we're interested in that one. And if we found that one, then we would know this one, we would know this one automatically, right, by just subtracting from 180 degrees. So the reference angle becomes important because that helps us name the sides. So go through and talk to me about the names of the sides of the right triangle. So given that the reference angle's here, what's the name of this side?
Leg.
Good. Type of leg?
Adjacent.
Good. And so now I'm moving you along. Before I did it in 2 pieces, now I'm just pushing for what's the whole thing. Why is it adjacent?
It's next to the reference angle.
That's it. It's next to the reference angle. You can't say it any more clearly than that. So then what does that make the name of this side?
Opposite leg.
So I'm going to call it op leg. Thank you very much. What's the name of this side over here?
Hypotenuse.
Height. And how do you remember the height? How do you remember which one's the height?
Longest side.
Longest side, good.
Across
What else?
the 90-degree angle.
Across from the 90-degree angle or not touching 90, all of that is great. All that works very well. And then the 2 legs are touching the 90, right? And I always say if you go like this, a triangle has 2 legs like a
Human.
That's the best I got. It sounds weird every time I have you say it, but that's the best I got for 2 legs. Okay, if we move the reference angle from here to here, now what's the name of this side over here?
Adjacent leg.
Good. And so very hard for students when they start out in trig is understanding why the adjacent leg was over here on this one, you know, orientation-wise, it would be right here. But because that reference angle is next to here, now we move the reference angle here, it's next to there, so the adjacent leg moves depending on where the reference angle is placed. And therefore, what's the name of this side?
Op leg.
What's the name of this side?
Hypotenuse.
Okay, so very good. That's the naming of the sides. That's one of your difficult parts of trig, is figuring out what the names of the sides are. Once you have the names of the sides down, now you're looking for the magic formula that explains to you the 3 trig functions we're using so far. What's the magic formula? SOHCAHTOA, okay? So let's run through this. And let me try to be a little bit organized on these because I'm going to use these to explain these 6, we're going to use these 6 triangles to talk about how to choose which function. So let's do so. What's the S stand for?
Sine.
Okay, what's the O stand for?
Opposite leg.
Op leg, good. And the H?
Hypotenuse.
Yeah, and so you kind of have to remember the format, but we're going to put sine. We always have an angle with the trig function, so sine alpha equals, and it's a fraction, and it's op leg over height. Op leg over height. So that's one of our trig functions. Let's move to ca. What's the C stand for?
Cosine.
Cosine, good. And the A?
Adjacent leg.
Adj leg, yep. And the H?
Hypotenuse.
Yes. So here's what it looks like. Cosine alpha, again, they all have angles associated with them, and it's a fraction. So we have adjacent leg, adj for the A, adj leg, and for the H we have height. And then last one, let's explain TOA. What's the trig function's name?
Tangent.
Tangent, good. We abbreviate it tan, and that's the way it is on the buttons on your calculator, right? It needs an angle, so we're just dropping in a variable. It could be tan beta. I just always use alpha. It's just whatever the unknown angle is, or whatever the angle is. What's the O stand for?
Op leg.
Good. And the A?
Adjacent leg.
So this one is, oh, As soon as I say it, my brain doesn't write it right. Op leg over adj leg. Okay, good. So these are our three trig functions. Once we have all three trig functions, now the trial or the trouble or the difficulty for students becomes, how do I know which function to use? Now we roll them out in lessons where we did sine in the first two lessons, cosine in the second two lessons, and tangent basically in the second two lessons, but that's not really the way it works. The way it works is you're given a set of triangles, and now you're going back and figuring out, what do I use for each one of those? So before we jump into the triangles and try to assess what we're doing here, notice that for sine function, there's two sides involved in this, an op leg and a height, which you've already said. In this one, it's different. It's the adj leg and the height. Now the heights repeat, but these are different, right? Op leg and adj leg. And then down in this one for tan, there is no height. There's no hypotenuse involved. There's an op leg and an adj leg. So as you start to look at triangles and you go, I'm looking at 6 triangles, how do I know which function to choose for each? It becomes challenging for students to go, I don't know what to do next, right? What do I do next? Well, so let's talk about some of the strategies. Tan alpha has no hypotenuse in the formula. So if you look at a triangle and they're starting to reference a hypotenuse, see the 12? 12 is in the hypotenuse position, right? This problem involves a hypotenuse. So can you understand that we would exclude tan because there's no hypotenuse in the formula? Does that make sense? Tan would be out. So part of your choice system is an exclusion, right? It's always harder to choose what not to do than what to do, or maybe opposite. I'm not sure which, depending on the situation. So because this problem involves a hypotenuse, it's going to be either a sine or a cosine. Now, what's the deciding factor? Well, cosine uses the adj leg and sine uses the op leg. So if I know I've got a height, I really want to know what this side is. What's the name of this side?
Adj leg.
This is an adj leg. Does sine have an adj leg in it?
No.
So it's out. Which function has to be used to solve this triangle? It's got to be cosine. Does this make sense? Sort of the deliberation back and forth to see what evidence we had in the triangle, what was in the formula, and which one we're going to pick. So this one would end up being a cosine alpha up here. That's what we would use to solve that triangle. Look at this one here. Let's go to the next one. And see if you can roll through the same reasoning and come up with which trig function we would use for this triangle. Amber alert?
Yes.
I figured out how to turn mine off. Do you know that? You can turn them off. I didn't know that before. Okay, are you thinking about this triangle? Do you have an idea in your mind which function you might use? You do?
Sine.
Okay. You're choosing sine. Tell me more. Why would you choose that? All of ours are going to go off.
Because we can put in a variable for the question mark.
And a B, and keep going. Tell me more.
And it's the opposite leg of the angle, the reference angle.
Okay, keep going.
And we have a hypotenuse.
Good. I love it. Keep going.
And I think that's it.
Okay. So based on that evidence, why did you pick sine? And just could tell me the obvious. I think you're letting me fill it in, but tell me what your brain is thinking at that point.
We don't have the adjacent leg.
Good. So would I then assume you're saying that that means we can't use cosine because it's got an adjacent leg, and we can't use tan because it's got an adjacent leg? So you kind of go in two routes. I feel like the first way you told me was, hey, we've got an op leg and a height, and that fits sine. So that's kind of going that's going directly at it, right? Then you went the opposite direction. You said, well, there's no adj leg, so it can't be this and can't be this. So you're kind of going both directions and coming up with the same answer for both. So this one's going to be sine alpha. Okay, who wants to question that at this moment? Are you okay with this? And do you see the logic? Pretty straightforward so far? Okay. Are you guys with me? Are you following this? It's kind of difficult. I think once you get it, you're okay, right? But before you get it, it's not clear. Okay, so move to this one. Everybody move to this one. Don't say it out loud. Come up with the answer in your mind, and let me go around to each of you and poll you to see what you get. Take a look at this one. I tried to flip it around too. I tried to change the orientation of these to try to mess with your mind a little bit. Sorry, I'm gonna stand in front of it. And maybe give me a hand signal or something when you've got an idea in your mind what you think it is. Okay. Okay. Thank you. Who else? Are you trying it? You have an idea what do you think it is? Not yet? Take a look at it. Try to see if you can get it. You have an idea? Not sure? Okay. You think? You think maybe? Okay. Marisol, not yet? Sheldon? Maybe? Maybe? Okay, who wants to break the news? Who thinks they got it? Tiffany, what'd you get? What do you think it is?
Sine.
You think it's sine? Okay, talk to me why. Tell me about why you say that.
Because across from it is opposite leg, and
Okay, so I'm going to write this as you say it. Op leg. Good. I agree with that. I agree.
so I eliminated the cosine.
So you eliminated cosine.
Yeah.
I agree with that. Keep going.
34 is hypotenuse, so tangent doesn't have hypotenuse.
Okay, so 34 is a degree, so that becomes the reference angle. That is the reference angle. In other words, when we say hypotenuse, we're looking for the length of that hypotenuse side, right? 34 is not the length of that side. 34 is the measure of that angle. Does this make sense? You know, so you're separating out the lengths of the sides versus the angles of the triangle, right? Well, so hang on to your answer from there. Who else has a different answer? I want to go for a different one. Hang on one second. Who else has a different answer? Anybody else? Then I'm coming to you. You do, Sheldon? What do you say? What? Tangent? Okay, why?
Because there's an off leg, and then we're trying to find the adjacent.
Louder. I'm hard of hearing.
Because there's an off leg,
Yeah.
and then we're trying to find the adjacent, so the adjacent would be
So,
X.
Tiffany, do you agree that this is the edge leg? Okay. So because you have an op leg and an edge leg, this is not the measurement of that. Does that make sense to you? Okay. Did that look like the way it was? And I don't always draw things well either. I'm trying to squeeze it into that corner, into that angle, that rotation there is what I'm trying to do, right? And it's not always clear. So given that it's op leg and edge leg, what Shaolin is saying, it's got an op leg and an edge leg, it's got to be tan. Is it okay? You okay with this? Okay. And then who didn't get it? Marisol, you didn't get it. What do you think of that? What do you think of that thought process? Does that make sense to you? Okay. I'm kind of ignoring you guys over here. Does this kind of make sense? I don't want to exclude you. Does this make sense? Okay. So let's put tan by this one. This is tan alpha. Okay. Keep going. Go to the next one. Think through it in the same process. Think through it in the same process. And give me a little hand signal when you've got it. Or think you got it. Okay. 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 Marisol, what do you think? Are you trying? You think maybe you have an answer or no? No? Okay. What do you think? You have one yet? Do you have an answer? No? Tiffany, you got one? Okay. Do you have one, Natalie? Not yet. Do you have one? Okay. So, Shaolin, talk to me about what you say it is.
Cosine.
You think it's sine. Okay, why?
I said cosine.
You said cosine. Why?
Because there's an adjacent leg or trying to find the height.
Is this the edge leg?
Yeah.
Okay, this is the edge leg. This is the height.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're looking for, and this is the reference angle, by the way, right? So you're looking for the function that's got a side length for edge leg and height. You're coming here and saying cosine? Okay, how many got that? You said that's what you got. You did? Okay, I'm picking up a few more with every one. We're picking up a few. Does this make sense when you see it? Like after you see it, you're like, oh yeah, I could have done that maybe? Natalie, what do you say? Does it make sense when you see it? Okay, I want you to watch this one. Watch this one here, all right? Because I'm coming down to just 3 or 4 of you left. All right, so go to the next one. Go to this one here. Do you see the process they're running through? They're identifying which sides are given, and then going straight to the function and going, let me just pick the one with those sides in it. Right? Basically speaking, right? That's what you're doing?
Good afternoon, Wilson High School. Teachers, please pardon this interruption. Students, if you receive this summons to head to the NPR, please go to the NPR now. Teachers, please release the students that have summons to the NPR. And students, please report to the NPR if you got a summons to the NPR. Please go now. Thank you very much.
Okay, raise your hand if you got an answer. I got 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, who hasn't done it yet? Natalie, do you know how to name the sides? So now you're you can't do it unless you can name sides. Can you name the sides? Like, do you know which side, what's the name of this side here? So look, I'm just in all fairness to yourself, you got to give yourself a break. If you don't go back to this piece, right, you got to go back to this and go, what are the names of the sides? Then you can't go to the next step. Are you with me? It's not fair to yourself to go, well, how can I do this, right? You got to have sort of the one knowledge as a step and then step to the next one. Can you name the sides over here? Like, can you name this side?
Hypotenuse.
Nope. Hypotenuse does not touch the 90. Yeah.
Okay.
Good, but at least your goal is to figure out what it is that's holding up this process, right? So this one's the height. A triangle has 2 legs like A, and they're both touching the 90. So see this 90? Leg and a leg. You with me? This one's got to be the height down here, right? So that becomes, so look, I think the issue is not, can I pick which function for you guys? You're going to go back and practice. How do I know which side is named what? That's your challenge for this, right? Until you do that, it's going to be kind of difficult. How about you, Marisol? Were you able to say what the name of this side is? Yes. So let me write it up here. What's the name of this side? Yes. And as you see the other student do that, does your brain go, I have no idea what they're doing? Okay, and that's fair enough. You have to self-assess where you are before you can move forward, right? So just be honest about where you are and then go, how the heck do I figure this out, right? And go back through the process, all right? So, but let's keep going on this one. Given that it's these 2 sides, now which function did you pick? Tan, because that's the function with those 2 sides in it, tan alpha. Okay, one last one. And I apologize, part of this is you're going to go back through and look for how to name those sides. You with me? That's your structure to go back and make progress. Same thing, if you're struggling to name the sides, go back, look at maybe the videos we did where we talk about it each time, and see if you can figure that part out, all right? So one last one, what function would this one be? Yes.
Sine.
Why?
Because there's a constant and we're finding the hypotenuse.
This one's the op leg, this one's the height. Op leg over height is a sine, it's got to be sine alpha. Okay? So Why is trig so difficult? I think it's because you're layering pieces of information on top of each other. And we're all the way down here now, and just be fair to yourself. Go back and go, let me go back and see what this is, and then you'll be fine moving forward from there, okay?